Hello. Hello, hello. We are here. We are alive. It is Tuesday. It is Halloween. Happy Halloween if you celebrate Halloween. If you don't, happy Tuesday. If you don't celebrate Tuesday, I don't know what to tell you. Let's talk about what's going on with you. And by that, of course, I mean, what are you struggling with vocally? Um, Whenever I open my studio and I get a new person in, the thing that usually shows up first is all the things they don't like about their voice. And that usually involves a lot of comparison. It usually involves a lot of just not enoughness. Usually involves talking about range. Sorry. I gotta stop having smoothies before these lives. It doesn't do well for my phlegm level. So the things I get asked most about are probably range, pitch, tone, in that they don't like how their voice sounds. They just want to feel better about how their voice sounds. And then interesting things like they want to learn how to harmonize, or this is like the etc. They want to learn how to stop being scared when they go on stage every time. And of course, there's no like specific curriculum. Like, I have found that everybody starts from a very different place, and so everybody has to do things in a different order than they would in a school or something, or from somebody else. And so if I have two people in a group together, for example, how do I bring them to the same place at the same time? The answer is I don't. We're always going from what your desire is with your voice, in order to hit your goals, which are very different from other people. Of course, everybody wants to get quote unquote better. Everybody wants to be able to control their voice more. Everybody wants to be able to hit those higher notes. And of course, I put all of these in quotes because everything is relative. And a lot of times, what is needed alongside of technique work is also a big old mindset shift. And I don't mean mindset as in just telling yourself that you're wrong, but I mean, like, over time, you're changing deeply seated beliefs. And this is not easy work. So many voice coaches, especially on here, they come at mindset from a place of like, just don't be so hard on yourself. Oh, really? It's that easy? Cool. I'll just turn it off then. It's not how it works for me. I am a person with anxiety. I'm a person with CPTSD. I'm a person who is a perfectionist, who is a people pleaser, who is an overthinker. Mindset stuff, affirmation stuff, it's lovely for the first week, and then it stops working for me. And I think a lot of other people too. Like, thinking about your mindset is not just telling yourself that things are different than you think they are. It's a practice. It's a lifestyle change. And it's doing the work in order to change how your literal biology relates to what's in your mind. So it's not just what's in here. It's starting here in order to change what's in here. So I watch a lot of Ruby Rose Fox of Muscle Music, her videos. She has also an app called Muscle Music, and it is fantastic. Highly recommend. If you're an anxious overthinker, perfectionist, neurodivergent, any kind of singer that you want, you can put in there. All performers need her app. It's awesome. Highly recommend. Anyway, so she talks about going in through the body to the mind, because the mind and the nervous system are very, very intimately related, and the voice. They're all related in a very tight-knit group, because okay, Instagram, you can do it. So they're all related. So your mind and your voice and your nervous system are all very connected. And so when somebody comes to me and they say, I just do not like how those high notes sound. I hate my head voice. It's just gross. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's address it from all three of these ways, right? Let's think about all of them. Okay, number one, what is it about your head voice that you don't like? It's too screechy. Okay, cool. Let's talk about why voices get screechy. You have a smaller closure in your pharynx. You have tight vocal muscles. You are just pushing really hard. You're trying to pull your chest voice when you really should be allowing. So we do exercises to open that up. So like one of my favorites is like the Disney princess sigh, just a nice easy ah. We talk about also space in the back of the mouth and the throat and the front of the mouth. So I'll have you do like ah, and up and up and up, ah, because that feels less screechy, right? That feels more open. It feels like you're not pushing so hard. Great. Now we know you can make other sounds than just screechy sounds, right? Let's put it back in the song. Oh, get screechy again. Let's talk about why that is. What were you thinking just before that screechiness happened? And then the answer is often something like, well, I didn't feel confident about that note, so something in me made me really try and push it, you know. I really wanted it to happen, and I didn't feel great about my chances of hitting it, so my subconscious mind kind of took over. And that's what happens when you're not sure about a note and you're a fighter. You go for it, you effort it to the max, and when you're efforting, depending on your bodily patterns, your tongue tightens up, because your tongue is very connected to how you're feeling at subconscious level. And your vocal muscles might tighten up, your shoulders might tighten up, you might tighten up your belly so you're not taking your full relaxed belly open breath. And all of these things together equal screechy, even though you know you can make a different sound up there. You know you can have a more open, warmer sound. Your subconscious did not let you in that moment because of that fear that was coming up before you hit that note. And then there's a whole other layer, right? It's not just, you can't just say, okay, well, stop being scared. Well, that's not possible. Like, I am scared of that high note because my nervous system doesn't have the evidence that that note can be easy over and over again. Like every time I've hit it in the past, which is dozens of times, it's been screechy and I don't like it. And I'm scared of that happening again, especially in front of another person. Hey, Val, welcome. And so we've touched on the technique. We've touched on the mind, what's happening in there. There's fear there, obviously, totally understandable. And now we have to touch on what the nervous system is doing. So some part of you, even if you say, oh, okay, I can do it, it's not a problem, your nervous system is still feeling the fear. Even though you're telling your mind something different, you told your mind, okay, stop being scared. And maybe you can hold on to that for 5-10 minutes. But your nervous system is still running on that evidence that you had the dozens of times you tried that note before, and it didn't sound how you wanted it to sound. So what your body is running on is that practice, right? You've had practice feeling like that note is gross. And so that's what you're going into this note feeling is, oh God, that note's going to be gross again because of all the evidence I have on a bodily level that's telling me that note's going to be gross once again. And so what happens? Even if you're saying in your mind your mantra, I'm not afraid of that note. I'm not afraid. I'm going to open up. It's going to be great. And then what happens? Squeaky again, because you are feeling unsafe on a biological, deep, deep level. So now what we have to do is to remind yourself that you are safe. And so maybe you felt your shoulders start to tighten up. We can roll your shoulders, get some movement in there. Maybe your body tells you that it's unsafe by shaking, right? Things get a little shaky when you're starting to get nervous, or you have to do something outside of your comfort zone. Maybe you get sweaty, you have clammy hands or something. So those are all the things that we start to know as your patterns, and we start to look for that. And so you say, okay, my hands are clammy. I know I'm getting nervous. I know that I'm not in charge right now. My nervous system is in charge, right? And so in order to switch that dynamic again, we need to bring it back into bodily safety first. So whatever you need to do to make that happen. If a deep breath doesn't work, which if you're in a real nervy state, it might not, because it doesn't always work that way. One of my favorites is to grab my wrist, just like give it a nice good squeeze for like 10-15 seconds. Even that kind of starts to soothe and bring everything down a little bit. Grab the other wrist. It's a really good sign to your body that you are held and taken care of, and that you've got you, right? You're the parent, you're in charge now. I got you. If that doesn't work, one of my favorite things that Ruby Roses does is this hug. Right, one hand under the armpit, one hand on the shoulder. Give yourself a nice squeeze and start to feel all the snow in your snow globe start to settle. For me, it feels like atoms kind of settling. Put your feet into the ground. Feel all of your toes on the ground. You are safe. You are healthy. You are good enough to make those sounds. You're allowed to be loud. You're allowed to be high. You're allowed to sing in whatever way you want to. So often this stuff comes from many, many years of being told that we're being too loud, that our voice is screechy. Go figure that that's the thing you hate now in your voice, right? Especially as women, we get told that we're too whiny, or we're told that our emotions are not okay. And so even just having a voice that sounds like you're having an emotion feels not okay. And then also having the emotion about the voice is also not okay. And so you're constantly just rejecting yourself. This is a thing that shows up, especially in people who are raised as women. So keep all that in mind. If you've ever had a choir teacher or a parent say, you're not good at singing, shut up. Or this is a big one, if you were in choir and you were always put in as an alto, that is a huge identity that we take with us forever. And so all of a sudden you go for a high note and your body's like, wait a second, that's not me. I don't belong here. I've always been told I'm an alto. Squeeze, tighten, gross feelings, right? So this is how this third layer, your nervous system, affects how you sound. There's no amount of, sometimes mantras are great, sometimes affirmations help. But if this is the case for you, if you have deeply seated beliefs, biologically connected beliefs, that you can't hit a certain note or whatever the issue is for you, no amount of affirmations and telling yourself that you're being ridiculous is going to change your mind. Your body's mind, anyway, right? We can repeat those affirmations and all that, but if we're not literally feeling it, like deep down in your bones, nothing's going to change about your vocal technique, right? Even if you know how the vocal technique is supposed to feel, if you are nervous, if you're dysregulated, if you're too far out of your comfort zone, your body's defense system is always going to come first. It's going to be like, nope, this is dangerous. I can't open up. I can't make this happen because I'm in danger, because of all the evidence that I have from the past. Like that note was a gross sounding note. Many times in the past, it equaled danger. And so I'm not even going to let myself open up or go there right now, because that's just your nervous system's job. That's what it says. It's like, nope, I know that. I've seen it. It hurt in the past. We're not doing it. At least with ease, anyway. Like some things you can do, but you're tight and on edge. So some things are not your fault. A lot of things are not your fault, man. Like this vocal training is just brain training. And if it were that easy, everybody would be amazing genius singers. But it's not. We have all these other layers. So we do the brain training, and we talk about all the other stuff that comes up, all those other things that your voice means to you, right? All those other painful things that come up when you try to sing and you can't hit a note, and all of a sudden you hear in your head, you're not good enough. You're in your head, this is why you quit choir in 7th grade, right? Or like, man, that note sounds gross. Why can't you sing better? Like, why aren't you better by now? You've been taking voice lessons for 2 months. Why aren't you better? I did a reel about that today. I had a great conversation with one of my students, Danny, about being scared to sing in front of somebody because they might think that you're not growing after a month or 2 of voice lessons. Like this is real stuff that shows up in our minds. And even though when you say it out loud, it may sound ridiculous, it's a very real biologically held belief. And it's a very important thing to lean into that and to listen to that and to not just say, well, okay, I can change my mind. I can change my mindset and it'll be fixed forever. No. If your nervous system is not being trained at the same time to feel safety in that moment, that issue is always going to come up for you. It's going to continue to come up for many years. Maybe it'll go away for a little while as you rely on your technique, but all of a sudden you're doing a big show and you're nervous, more nervous than you have been in a while. That issue might come up because your nervous system's the one in charge now, right? It remembers. It tells the future for you. Sometimes your nervous system's always like a little step ahead of you, looking out for danger when you don't even know what's happening. You don't even know what it's looking for. So there's a reason for all this stuff, and a lot of it is not your fault. A lot of it's related to adults in your life, for your whole life, telling you how to relate to your own voice. I always talk about this, but this whole culture around American Idol and The Voice it was really exciting when I was growing up. I remember the very first season of American Idol. I don't remember what grade I was in, but I think it was like junior high, maybe, barely. And I was like, that's so cool. It's amazing to watch these people. But then every time somebody would get voted off, you like internalize that as a kid, as a person who loves music, as a singer person. And you're like, man, I better not sound anything like that person. They were not good enough. They got voted off. And now America hates them, right? You take things very, very seriously. Even if you're not a kid, if you're an adult, you can take these things seriously too. So your gremlins come from all kinds of places, even TV shows that you think that you're immune to their charms, but your nervous system is not, So just want to remind you, if you're here, if you're listening, if you're watching back, all the things that you think are wrong with your voice, quote unquote wrong, let's look at all three layers instead of just, why aren't you better? Right? Like, that's not a helpful way of looking at things. We also have to be willing to play. And this is the most important part, and this is what takes people a while to get, is in order to make this change, play is the thing that sometimes will bypass all of this very deep-seated nervous system stuff, because when you get into play, it's a different nervous system state. And when you're playing, you're okay with messing up because you're just playing, right? You're just joking. I am too using the app. Lying to me. Instagram. Is there anyone? Oh yeah. So when you're playing, you're able to mess up, and it's not the weight of the world on you. When you're playing, you allow yourself to try things that you may never have tried, and you try them with more openness and freedom because you're just playing, right? You're just joking. It's not really you that's singing, it's your fake play self. And sometimes that is the thing that we need to use just to give your nervous system more of that evidence that you can do a thing with space, with relaxation, with openness, letting your tongue chill out, whatever is the issue for you. So yeah, just remind yourself that a lot of the stuff is not your fault. It's just the evidence that your nervous system has from many decades of being alive and living in this society. And we can change these things. Over time, we can start to look at, number one, your technique. Let's find a different way that feels easier in your body. We're focusing on feeling first, not sound. Because when you're focused on sound, you're always going to be in comparison mode. You're always going to be in fixing mode. You're always going to be in manipulation mode before anything even comes out of your mouth. So we look at the technique, we find an easier way, an easier feeling way, first and foremost. We get that to be muscle memory in your body. And then if the issue is still happening in a song, we go back and look at what's happening in your mind. What was happening right before that note? Were you bracing for a weird sound to come out of your mouth because it's happened before? Are you still comparing yourself to Olivia Rodrigo in your mind? Are you feeling afraid of other people hearing you, and maybe if you mess up, they'll think less of you? Like, this is all mental stuff that can come up that derails the technique work, right? All this technique work is nothing without a handle on what's going on in your mind. And then if we can make a difference to that, like if we help you see a different way and how this is affecting your voice, and you feel like your mind is like, good, we're not a problem anymore, I don't believe that anymore, and it's still happening in the song, if the issue, like you can't hit this note or you can't make this run happen, if that's still happening in the song, we look at your nervous system and we say, okay, where does your body have literal evidence of this note being scary? And how can we give our body grace for just protecting itself from a thing that it happened many dozen times, and it's just using the same evidence, that the only evidence it's had. And so why would you get mad at yourself for that, right? Your body sees this issue, this hurdle in whatever song you're working on, and it goes, oh, I know this hurdle, it's bad, I'm not even going to try. Or if you're a fighter, you like pedal to the metal, I'm going to try as hard as I possibly can. And for your body, that means tight, 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 and over pushing and overdoing. So if we look at the technique and still is not happening, we look at the mind, still not happening, we look at the nervous system, something in your body is not feeling safe to make that happen. So in those moments, we go in through the body and we say, okay, how do I make my body feel safe in this moment? Go in, give yourself some settling touch and see if you can keep that technique happening through the song while you feel safer than you did a couple minutes ago when your mind was going crazy with all the with all the fear and everything. And maybe if your mind was quiet, it doesn't really matter because your nervous system's the one in charge of this moment. Like if it knows that there's danger ahead, it's always going to be bracing for that. And so you can't get mad at yourself or turn yourself on your brain and go, you should be better, stop being afraid. It doesn't work that way if it's deeply seated, you know. And a lot of this stuff is, a lot of our fears and stuff around singing are very deeply seated from when we were teeny tiny. So all that to be said, we don't necessarily have to do it in that order. We can talk about the nervous system from the very beginning so that we don't even have to go through all this trial and error. We can make sure the nervous system feels safe from the very beginning, from when you first start approaching this problem spot in the song, and say, okay, let's do it from a place of feeling safe. What would help me feel safe right now? And then we play, right? And then we pay attention to what's going on in the mind. If the gremlin voice comes in, we get really good at saying, nope, I don't need to listen to you right now. We get really good at defending and separating from the gremlin. And then we give your body more and more evidence of being able to do this skill from a place of safety in the gremlin-free zone. And then it's much faster and more efficient to give yourself more evidence. You do that 10 times in a row, all of a sudden you have balanced out all the past 10 times that you messed up on that note. And now you have 10 times of evidence where you did it just great because you were in a safe place. So now it's not a huge issue anymore. You're starting to train your nervous system along with your muscles and your mechanism and your mind. So we can do it all at the same time. And that's what I do inside Vocal Magic and in my private lessons too. But the great thing about the group program is that not only are you doing all this really deep work, but you're doing it alongside other people who get it, who are doing the same thing as you, who are going through the same struggles, who have the same gremlin voices in their heads. And you get practice singing in front of a small group of people who are safe, and we know they're safe because I'm holding a space, and also they're people who get it. They're not going to judge you. They're not going to criticize you. They're holding that space because they want that space held for them as well. So that's the great part. If you're somebody who has stage fright, who gets nervous on stage, like, this is how we train the nervous system. We start with a small group of safe people and we perform in front of them. And then that becomes a part of your comfort zone. You integrate that. Like, oh, I perform in front of 7 really awesome people every single week. It's not a problem anymore. And then we start to expand from there. We do little performances. So we're going outside of those 7 people, and then bigger and bigger performances. We help get you to your goals. So if your goal is not to perform and just to record, great. How can we start pushing bigger and bigger buttons for you? How can we practice recording with a metronome so that the metronome is not terrifying for you? You know, it's that same idea of, let's go with what feels safe. Let's take one little mini step outside of your comfort zone, and then that integrates into your comfort zone. One more little mini step, that integrates into your comfort zone. And then all of a sudden, over 6 months, your comfort zone is like way bigger, more expansive. So just thinking about it as like a trainer instead of, I don't think of myself as like an instructor per se, although I am. I teach about a lot of different techniques and everything, but I am a support system for this growth that you're on. I'm helping you ask all the right questions so that you can train your own mind and nervous system and mechanism, so that over time you barely even noticed the change, but then 6 months later you're like, I cannot believe I sound like this. I am singing high notes with freedom. I don't sound squeaky anymore. And part of that is because you have trained your body to do different things, but also part of it is because you've trained your nervous system to see those things as less scary. So now you can do it in front of people, right? It's not just a matter of being able to carry out the technique. It's a matter of being able to carry out the technique in a slightly dysregulated state, because that's exactly what we're practicing in this program. So you get many, many layers of all of this. So yeah, that's mostly how I teach everybody in my program. We look at 3 different layers to them. And it's going to be different for everybody on different days also. Like one day you might have the technique down, you come back to me next week and you're like, I don't know what happened, but I've been having an anxious week. And I'm like, all right, that is a great observation. That probably has a lot to do with it. So just looking at yourself as a human and not as a machine is a huge first step. You know, it's important to know that you are always going to be evolving. Every day is going to feel different as a singer. You know, you're going to be more inflamed on some days because of hormone fluctuation, because you oversang the day before. Like things are changing every day, and I'm just here to help you ask the right questions of yourself, and we're going to work towards your goals together. And in the Vocal Magic program, we have a whole little family to do that with. It's not just me and you anymore, because there's no amount of singing in front of one person that's going to get you more used to singing in front of a crowd, right? So we're doing that with other people. The other great part about that is that you are also hearing the feedback that they're getting from their individual sessions, because we do hot seats in front of the group as well as private sessions, as well as the video lessons. And so you're getting their feedback plus your own, and they're getting their feedback plus yours. So it's kind of exponential. It's pretty awesome. You get a whole bunch out of it. Yeah, my Vocal Magic graduates have blown myself and themselves away with how easy singing can feel, how much they've accomplished, hitting milestones that their year ago self would have never ever guessed that they could do. So if you want to read those, all the testimonials are on my website, up where you'd think it is. And if you're curious and want to know what it's like to work with me, you can totally do that, because I'm doing free trial sessions right now. Only for a limited time, so get in there right now. I offer them all year round, but they are free right now, just so you know. So thank you for being here. I'm really looking forward to talking about all of this and how we can change your singing life over time for good. It's a commitment. I know 6 months is a long period of time to say yes to something. However, if singing is a thing for you, if it's your thing, it's a thing you want to get better at, it's a thing you want to open up more, it's a thing you want to feel better about, if it's a thing you want to share with more people, this is the thing. This is the way. The risk of sounding like the Mandalorian, this is the way. So yeah, that's what I'm here for. That's what I do. I just told you all my secrets, so don't go share them around. No, I'm kidding. Please go share them around. I don't care. I wish more performers would operate this way. And I don't have space for everybody, but I have space for you. I only have a couple more spots left to book a call. So if you're here, thank you for being here and listening to everything I had to say. If you have any questions, I'm always here. My DMs are always open. Happy to answer anything. Do a trial session with you anytime. And then our next cohort of Vocal Magic starts in a couple weeks. 2 weeks, I think. So now's the time, baby. Let's do it. I love you very much. Thanks for being here. Have a lovely day.